Hello there, it's Anthony Brown here from Amped. I'm at the IOI booth. Now, we recently announced Metastage Canada being built in Vancouver with Departure Lounge. And these are the cameras that we're using. 106 of these cameras, actually 53 color cameras and 53 black and white special LiDAR kind of cameras to be able to do this volumetric capture stage, Metastage Canada. And I'm here with Todd, Seath, sales manager for IOI.
Sales manager for IOI. Yep.
Fantastic. And I thought I'd take a few minutes while we're at NAB to just tell our AMP followers a little bit about what it is that we just purchased and what we're building and why these cameras are so cool and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to talk about them. So we come from the machine vision side of things. So we've done a lot in the research, defense, aerospace industry. And when we started making cameras, companies like Microsoft reached out to us because they couldn't get what they needed in the traditional kind of NAB market. You can't change aspect ratio, you can't change frame rate. So we developed our first line of cameras, created a second generation of cameras with external recorders, and working with companies like Microsoft, 8i, and other companies, we got a lot of feedback from the market that there had to be a better way to do it, which led to the development of VoluCam. What we do is we've now taken that back-end storage and moved it to the camera. So we've got an M2, up to 2 terabyte M2 SSD on board every camera, so it goes direct from sensor to SSD.
Right.
Eliminates any potential for frame drops that you would get with normal systems where you've got a long cable run back to a recorder. We do synchronization through a 10 GE standard IT 10 GE network. So we've simplified the infrastructure down to a point where a standard IT person can manage the entire system. When an operator comes up to the system, which you see behind us here, as soon as you start the software, it goes out on the network, finds all the cameras, sets them up, and then basically you can go in and pick one camera, set it up, get it ready the way you want, and then copy it to the rest of them. Now, when you record, you go in, basically it's as simple as pressing a record button. The cameras are all synchronized within plus or minus 5 microseconds of each other. The recording is completed, you hit stop. You can now go in and preview that entire recording. You can go to any start point, any end point, play it, queue it up for export, at which point now, whenever you're not recording, the system will then intelligently export off the system to your storage.
And that's a good point that you're bringing up, because the amount of data you mentioned earlier, for example, that you have a 2 terabyte drive on each one of these cameras. Yep. Now for Amped and for Departure Lounge, we have 106 of those cameras.
Yeah.
So that means that when we fill up a camera, which can take at full resolution, how many minutes of footage is that?
That's about so there's 2 different variations. So if you're not using compression, that's about 30 minutes.
Right.
If you are using compression, depending on the scene, that can be roughly an hour.
Okay. So let's say an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. So you fill up all of these cameras using compression, getting the most data that you can, and now you have 106 of those that have how much data?
4 terabytes.
4 terabytes each.
So
that means that almost half a petabyte of data, over 424 terabytes for 1 hour of shoot is what we have to download. Now those, if you can see the cameras in the screen there, they have these little blue cables coming off the back. That's fiber optics, and that's what we suck all of the data comes off of those cameras into our big storage array, and then we have to process it all.
Yep.
Right. So the once you've captured all this data to be able to see, a live band, or the UFC or whatever it is that you've captured in that volume, you now have to process that data. What's that like? How long does it normally take to process something?
So
like that?
It depends, but you're looking at hours to
days,
depending on how much cleanup you do. I've talked to Microsoft about one particular opportunity, and it took them 4 weeks.
Right.
After they do all.
Now you brought up Microsoft a few times, right? Yeah. Microsoft, the technology, and how Microsoft fits into the technology is it's part of their Holo Suite offering, right? So this is the technology, and I guess started with like Connect, basically. And
It did. So
right.
back in the early days, my understanding is that they looked within at the Connect, and
This is the Xbox Connect that you can buy at home, right? And
if you can see similarities between what they did then, because the Xbox Connect does have the IR dot pattern that it casts. If you have an IR camera, you can turn on the Connect and you'll see the dots.
Infrared camera.
Yeah, if you have the right camera. So they found that it didn't give them the quality. Like Microsoft are way up at the top of the food chain when it comes to volumetric capture. They want the best of the best. They found that just wasn't a high enough level product for them to be able to do it. So they went to market. They started talking to guys, the other camera manufacturers here, kind of shied away from the broadcast, like I said earlier. Can't change aspect ratio, can't change your stuff.
You have to change lenses by taking them off and putting them on.
So there's a whole slew of kind of things that led them to the machine vision market. So then they met with a number of different vendors, and eventually, because we're just not a camera vendor, we started doing storage. So we started with software that collected from other people's cameras. We then got DVRs that collected from other people's cameras, and then we created cameras. So the integrated
work from the data up.
Yeah, and because we had both sides of that equation, they didn't need to bring in multiple vendors and then worry about where's the problem. It's like we had an integrated solution that was fully synchronized. Like we really are strong in the multi-camera array, up into the hundreds of cameras.
Right.
And that's where we started with originally our flare cameras, our first gen cameras, and our core DVRs. Second generation, which Metastage has, is the Victorum cameras with our core DVRs, which ultimately led to.
And these are the third generation?
These are the third generation.
And which ones did we get?
Third generation.
That would be right.
Yeah.
That's
current
correct.
Gen, yeah,
the latest current gen.
You're on the leading edge.
That's right.
These are our latest and greatest. They've been out for a little while now. And you guys are the largest current volume cam user that we have.
Well, we are leading the way into the metaverse, and to do that takes some serious gear.
Yeah, it does.
And I do definitely appreciate you taking the time to show us a little bit about these cameras. And what you can do with them. It's amazing technology. You guys are the leader in the industry. If anybody's doing anything in volumetric capture, these are the cameras to use. It's not like we didn't do a bunch of our own research first before we came along and went this route.
And we're totally open to helping people too. We're not interested in just selling cameras to people. We want to sell cameras into applications that are going to work like what you guys have.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. The grand opening is coming very soon.
Yeah.
The stage, all the cameras have already shipped.
Yep, we shipped them a few weeks ago.
They shipped them a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Everything's getting assembled back in Vancouver. We made the announcement. We'll make the announcement very soon as to when we'll have our nice big grand opening and tell you about some of the projects we're doing in there. But thank you very much in the meantime, Todd. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Anthony.
My pleasure.